Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar, or this mini webinar. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking a look at how you can use the instruction navigator in Magium to do some fairly complicated navigation functionality in your individual tests. So let's get started. We're going to do a quick 3 different examples here so you can see how you can actually use Magium for this kind of navigation. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to show a basic setup where we just use an existing navigator to go to the My Account page on your Magento website. So if we go to Magento 1.9.log, essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go to Account, and then we are going to go to My Account. And this is something that's built already into Magium, so this is something that you can use. So we're going to show you how it's actually done, and then how you can change it too. So we will create our test directory. We're going to call it tests, and we will add a new test here. We're going to call it let's see, instruction navigation test, properly capitalized. And we're going to give it a namespace of my tests. So put in the class extends abstract Magento test case. Now technically, the instruction navigator is actually part of the base Magium class, and so base Magium project, I should say. And so you don't have to use necessarily the abstract Magento test case in order to make it actually work. But a lot of the theme configurations and other things that you're going to need are actually going to be in the Magium Magento project. So we add that in there, and we'll do public function test navigate to my account. Now, we're not going to use a theme here to set the base URL. We've already talked about how you can make those kinds of changes in our previous webinar on using the abstract configurable elements. So we'll just do this command open http Magento 1.9.log, which is my local test, or my local scenario. And the one we're going to use is the account home navigator, which will basically get you to the account home. So this get navigator account home navigate to, and then we'll just do this sleep 5 seconds on there. Now give us a quick run and see how this actually goes about. Of course, the hard drive is flying a little bit here, so loading it up, and goes to my account, and you are pretty much there at that point. So before we go on to the next exercise, let's take a look and see what this is actually doing. So I'm going to go to my account home navigator, and you'll note in here it has the instruction navigator that's being passed in as a dependency. So we'll go to the instruction navigator down here in the navigate to method. And we have a breakpoint set there, but we'll just do it right at the front here so you can kind of see how things are actually done there. So we'll rerun this test, but this time we will do it as a debug instead of just a quick test run. And it will open up the page, and then we get to the instruction navigator as part of our test. And you'll see we have 2 instructions. Mouse click, and then a second mouse click. And we just iterate over the instructions. Hits click. If we go to our page, we'll see that the click has occurred. Goes over the next level of instructions. Click happens again. And now we're at that page. So it's fairly simple to actually to do this kind of a setup here. But let's take a look at if we want to actually change something. This is going to be our second example here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we want to go to the exact same place. We want to go to the account home still. So we still want to go here. But if you'll note, we also have an account home down here on the footer of our page as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our account home instruction navigator, and we're going to configure our theme so that anytime we use the account home instruction navigator, we're going to utilize the theme instructions instead to go to the bottom part of the page. So to do that, go back to our instruction test. We'll go to our account home navigator. And we see here that we have navigator instructions. This here is just done so that I can this can be overridden very easily if you want. But it's essentially just calling get navigate to customer page instructions. We go to our theme configuration file for Magento 1.9, which is the default that we're using. You'll see that we have navigate to customer page instructions in our theme right here. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to override this utilizing the abstract configurable element again. So we'll do that by creating a new configuration. Again, this was covered in our previous webinar. So go to new directory configuration /that. And we'll create a new PHP file in there. And in here, we will give ourselves a type hint to our current theme configuration. And then we'll do this, and it is customer navigate to customer page instructions. Now the format of this is it's a multi-dimensional array. The first element is just basically the containing array that'll contain all the individual instructions. The second one, it's not an associative array, it's actually a typical array that has two elements, a 0 element and a 1 element. The first element is going to be the actual operation that we want to occur. Now, right now when I'm doing this, this is actually a constant that's in the WebDriver the WebDriver class. This is going to actually be moved. As I was building out the example here, I realized where it was, and so I'm going to be basically duplicating it in the instruction navigator. And so any constants that we're going to be using here are going to be from now on defined in the instruction navigator. But for the sake of this example, we will do WebDriver, and we'll do instruction mouse click. That's the first item. And the second one is going to be the XPath that it's going to click on. Now the question is, how do we actually find the XPath of what we're looking for? So we'll go back to our page here, and we'll open up the instruction or the console, and we know we're looking for my account. So let's start with that. So text equals my account. When we run that, we get a whole bunch of different options here. Now, what you may not see right off the top is that these are actually grouped into two. The first element is a list element plus the nested A element in there. If you open that up, you'll kind of see that. Problem is, this element here is hidden right now because that's what's the element that's up there. So what we're going to go down here, and we'll kind of mouse over until we start seeing the elements that we want. There's our LI element and there's our A element. So we obviously can't just simply use the reference here. So let's go down a couple of notches and see if we have anything that's unique. No, nothing unique yet. We're starting to see some level of uniqueness, but it's not quite unique enough because they're both class equals links. So let's go down one more and see if we can find that. Oops, I did the wrong XPath. And now we see div header account, and now we see div class footer. So now we're at a point where we can actually find a fairly distinct XPath that we're going to use. So let's just build it out and test it and see if it works. XPath div class equals footer descendant. Actually, whoops. Descendant, can't type. A text equals my account. And now we get a single individual element here that we can use. So let's copy this. We're going to put this into our instruction navigation override. So we still have our instruction navigation breakpoint. So let's rerun the test as a debug and see how this actually works out. So starting out as a debug, it'll load up the page. Have to wait for it again. And then let's check our instructions. We can see that we have the instruction mouse click, and we see our new X path in there on the bottom of the screen. So we'll just run over this and click, and now we're on our home page. Of course, we have that 5-second delay in there, and so we'll just run that again so we can see that. So you may not have seen it because it moved fairly quickly, but we got to the end of the, it actually scrolled down to the bottom of the page to put that element in scope and then executed the click command on there. So that's our second example. The third example that we're going to do here is we're going to create a new navigator that is going to go to the wish list instead. Now I'm going to break a couple of best practices here. I'm going to be putting my navigator directly in the test class. Technically, you should be putting this in its own namespace and referencing it through libraries, but that means I'd have to set up Composer to actually do that, and I'm just basically not going to do that just for the sake of time. So what we'll do then is in this here, we'll create a new class called Wishlist Navigator. And it's just going to be a basic class, but what we're going to do is we're going to define a dependency for it, and that dependency is going to be the instruction navigator. So protected navigator and public function construct, and our dependency is going to be the instruction navigator. And let's call it navigator, and this navigator equals navigator. And we'll create a method called public function navigate2. And all we're going to do in here is this navigator navigate2, and we're going to put in our instructions in there. Now, we've already defined most of this already, so we're going to do a little bit of copy and paste here. So go into the instructions here for the original customer page instructions, because they're basically going to be the same. And we put it in here. Now we have to do a couple of things here. This navigator here, the navigator itself doesn't understand anything about translation. So we have to take out our translation placeholders. You can add translation if you want. There's actually, you can add it as a dependency. Translator, Magium util translator if you wanted to, and then have it automatically translate so that you have internationalization taken care of right out of the box. But we're just going to be fairly simple here. So I'll do my wish list for our second one. Now what we do, create a new test up here, public function test navigate to wish list. And we will retrieve that. Now we're going to use just the simple get method, which is basically an interface into the dependency injection container. If you were utilizing some of the naming conventions you could that are part of the base Magium setup, then you might end up calling get theme, but because we're just simply retrieving the navigator directly from here, we're just going to do a raw class get. And so it'll be my tests wish list navigator and navigate2, and then again we'll just do a sleep on there of 5 seconds. So we've still got our breakpoint set in our instruction navigator. So I will do a debug of this new test, and let's see where we go. All right, we have our two instructions: mouse click on account and mouse click on my wish list. So let's iterate over them. We click on it, and our drop-down has appeared. And our next element has been found. And again, you can see the XPath here, which is my XPath. And then we will click. And then it brings us to the login page, because when you click on the account My Wishlist, it comes up on the login page. So that's a basic example of, or actually we have 3 different examples here of how you can set the utilize the instruction navigator from a base perspective, how you can customize the existing classes that utilize the instruction navigator, and also how you can build your own instruction navigator. So those are the 3 different scenarios that we tested here. So with that, I'd like to thank you for joining us here. Again, about Magium, you can contact me at kpschrade on Twitter or at MagiumLib on Twitter as well. We have our Facebook account, facebook.com/MagiumLib, eschrade.com, which is my blog, and then the MagiumLib.com website, where you can go to get more information about how Magium works. Lots of blog posts on documentation and some new features that we're going to be working on. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again at another webinar. We're actually going to be doing one on Friday, March the 25th. We're going to be doing a webinar on how you can build tests that can be run across multiple different Magento installations. We'll be doing, again, 15 to 20 minutes, and we will see you then on Friday.